Okay, so good afternoon. Welcome our viewers. And today I'm your host. My name is Nashipai, and I have a guest with me, and the name is Liz. I think she's going to tell us more about herself. And today we are going to talk about mental health. Uh, as you all know, right now in the current situation that you are in, that is the COVID, the pandemic, most of us, especially the youth, are really affected by COVID, and it's affecting their mental health. And mental health being a very crucial topic, uh, our guest speaker is going to take us through it today, and I'm hoping we shall get some clue and get something from her talk. So kindly, we are going one on one to introduce our guests and welcome our guests on board. Tell us who you are.
Thank you, Nashipai. As she said, my name is Liz Kimondo, and Liz Kimondo is a wife, first and foremost. She's a mother of four adults. Well, one is 19, she'll be an adult soon, a grandmother
Wow.
of one, and a
Mm-hmm.
mother in law of one. Liz is
Oh, wow.
also a published author of a book, Dare to Step Out. Liz is a counselor. She's a minister of the word. Liz is a coach and a mentor too. And Liz is a woman who is passionate about people living their potential, or basically people growing and living even in the circumstances that they're in, basically helping people cope with whatever it is that they are going through. That is my passion, so that people are living their full lives wherever they may be and whatever may become their way. So that's who I am.
Wow. Wow, that's a fantastic introduction, actually.
Thank
Okay. You have told us you're a counselor.
you.
Maybe if you try to tell us, like, what do you deal with specifically, and why did you choose to pursue counseling as a career?
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I chose to do counseling. I got into ministry in the early 2000, and
Okay.
the ministry I was heading then was the women's ministry.
Yes.
And apart from women, I also dealt with a lot of youth then. And I used to feel inadequate. Like I would be helping them and I would feel there is something missing.
Mm-hmm.
That led me to pursue counseling. But apart from that, in my earlier years, I had been counseled, and we didn't have counselors then.
Okay.
And I was given, I was being counseled by a family friend who was a psychiatrist. And therefore, he gave me medication, and the medication would always make me sleep and eat. And I felt there is something else that could have been done that wasn't done. And so, coming from that background of something could have been done that wasn't done, and then coming on down to somebody counseling me again, and I felt the advice they gave me was not the advice that was beneficial for me at that particular time because we were at loggerheads. What I felt I
Okay.
needed to do and what she asked me to do, eventually, what I had wanted to do is what worked in the situation. So, all
Oh,
these
wow.
things culminating to me joining ministry and feeling I am not
Mm-hmm.
able to adequately help people is what led me to go to college to pursue this other thing that would have helped
Yeah.
me to become a better minister or a better, counselor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Okay, so under counseling, you are aware of the topic mental health,
Mm,
and people keep on talking about mental health, mental health. Maybe you just give us a brief information of what this mental health is, and you maybe you explain to us why is it important. especially now or currently? Why is it important?
Mm, in this pandemic. Now,
Yeah.
mental health is not like what it was before. It's in the face of most of the youth. When you
Okay.
open the radios, it's there on social media. You know, um, uh, when the slogan went, it's okay not to be okay. So it is
Yeah.
there in the face of the youth, so to speak. But I feel
Mm-hmm.
mental health is a state of wellness where an individual is able to cope in their day to day
Mm-hmm.
activities and able to
Okay.
become, um, what would I call it, a productive member of society. Because
Okay.
mental health deals with our emotions, mental health deals with our well being, because what we think, how we feel, is how eventually we act out. So that
Mm-hmm.
means mental health is about emotions, is about feelings, is about well being. Because when I am unwell, sometimes we think mental health is just because of the pandemic. And we know what the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic has done. We have had loss of life.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with grief. We have had loss of jobs. You're dealing with trauma. We
Ah,
have
yeah.
had loss of schooling. When people
Mm-hmm.
like have been in campus, and you're going online, you're learning new things. Even the
Yeah.
lecturers who are lecturing, even
Mm-hmm.
for them, it's new. So we've
Yes.
had, we've been thrown out of our
Mm-hmm.
norm, and we
Mm-hmm.
are coping. Parents, we are coping with the new norm.
Mm-hmm.
The breadwinners are coping. So uh, mental health is across board, and for different people, it has affected us differently.
Okay.
When I think about the pandemic that we are living in right now, last year, the fear was fear of death. All of us
Mm-hmm.
were scared. And the fear, more than even fear of loss of jobs, was fear of death, because we didn't know what we were coping with, we didn't know what we were dealing with, and it was a fear of death. Now, this 2021 is more a fear of the unknown, because
Mm-hmm.
before it was like, okay, it's coming to an end, but it doesn't look like it's coming to an end. And it looks
Sure.
like it's coming in waves. We just had the last wave, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
is there another wave coming? Isn't there another wave coming? We
You never
have the
know.
vaccinations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are the
Yeah.
vaccinations going to be there? Are they going to be enough? You
Mm-hmm.
know, right now we're
Yeah.
thinking, fine, some people have not even had the first one, let alone the
Mm-hmm.
second one. And they're talking about Johnson and Johnson, and there's always this debate about
Mm-hmm.
um,
Sure.
AstraZeneca not being enough. So, what happens to us who are vaccinated with the first one? Will we get the second one? And the
Mm-hmm.
youth, we are all the way down the line. So, are we going to
Mm-hmm.
get it? Aren't we getting it? And
Mm-hmm.
so, the fear is real. That causes
Sure.
anxiety, that
Mm-hmm.
causes emotional and mood disorders, that causes
Mm-hmm.
depression. So, these
Mm-hmm.
are the things that have been there, that what you'd have said, it's the adolescents, then that this is the youth, this is how they behave. Things
Mm-hmm.
have been thrown into disarray where somebody probably started using maybe substance abuse or alcohol to cope.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Yeah.
it's become a full-blown addiction,
Mm-hmm.
where some people were using food to soothe at that particular time because of loneliness, and especially
Mm-hmm.
during the first lockdown, people were
Mm-hmm.
using food as a measure of soothing. It's become a full-blown addiction.
Yeah.
Loneliness has set in, you know
Mm-hmm.
and therefore people have you social distant, you're becoming social distant.
Mm-hmm.
Depression has set in, and therefore mental illness has become prevalent. As much as it was in the face, we've all heard about it. We know what
Yeah.
it is. We know it's about learning to cope. But then, how do I then cope with this
Sure. Mm-hmm.
uh, disorder, so to speak? How
Mm-hmm.
do I cope with it? And for me, the prevalent is, where am I? Who am I? When you look at the youth, The UN
Mhm.
says the youth is from 15, you know, to 35.
Yeah.
Those who
Mhm.
say the youth is from 18 to 35. And so
239.
all
Yeah.
these, yeah, and so all these
Mhm.
age gaps are dealing with different situations.
Mhm.
Maybe if I can talk about, you know, Nashipai, who finished campus, you know,
Yeah.
your need will be very different from somebody who is just joining campus.
Okay.
Your need will be very different from the youth who has just started a family, or from the youth who's just who began a job or a new family between
Mhm.
30, 31, 32, began a new family. What they are dealing with and coping with is absolutely different from what somebody 18, 20, 21 is coping with. And
Exactly.
so, yeah. So my question would be, how then do we begin to cope? How then do they seek help? Because sometimes we think mental, as much as it's in the faith, we think mental health is for somebody who maybe is an addict, you know, who
Mhm.
is a total addict. That's the one
Mhm.
who needs to seek help, or
Mhm.
somebody who is totally has disassociated from people, or somebody
Mhm.
who's fully depressed, you know,
Mhm.
because mental health is not tangible, so to speak, unless somebody is acting out. Mental health
Okay.
is not like the disability where you can say, oh, I was diagnosed with sugar diabetes, or I
Mhm.
was diagnosed with high blood pressure, you know,
Mhm.
or I have cancer.
Yeah.
This is not something we can be walking and we are all together. And somebody
Mhm.
is struggling, you know, with even suicidal thoughts, and they're right next to us. We've
Yeah.
had of
Yeah.
how many suicidal cases where people have been with friends and they have gone home and they have committed suicide.
Mhm.
And people have not understood why. It's because mental illness is not something tangible. Unless somebody is acting out, either in a volatile, they're angry because there is anger, or they're stressed out, so they've locked themselves in their rooms, or
I
they
see.
have sought help.
Mhm.
There are those who don't even know, and they think if I say I have a mental illness, then there's a stigma, you know.
Yeah.
And I think
Mhm.
that's one of the things with the youth. And maybe you can tell me different. I don't know. You know,
Mhm.
this is a discussion we have. You can tell me maybe with the youth there's a stigma when you seek
Mhm.
counsel. You know,
It
how
is.
has that been with the youth?
Yeah, it's there. Stigma is there. Like
Mm,
I don't know. Uh, I think the youth have not really understood what mental health problem is, and I feel like stigma. Yes, it's true, especially for those who come to learn that a certain individual or a certain youth has mental health illness. And to
mm.
me, I can say mental health illness is just a problem similar to any other that can be treated as well. Yeah, so I don't see the reason as to why there should be stigma, of which, yes, it's there, but I don't see the
Mm.
reason as to why it's there. That's why we really need to talk about mental health and mental health problems.
Yeah, that's very true. Mental health is, let me give another narrative. You know, we've had
Okay.
of dams busting the banks,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
a bank, you know, the dam bust the banks. The reason
Mm-hmm.
why the bank will burst is because of the volume of water. It can't
Sure.
hold the capacity that is coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually
Yes.
the bank does busts. That's the same thing with a human being. When you have
Mm-hmm.
so many emotions and so many pressures coming in, we are
Mm-hmm.
not able to handle. The emotions become so much that they burst. Now,
Mm-hmm.
um, we look at some illnesses and we think they're just illnesses. But
Mm-hmm.
illnesses are brought about when our mental capacity is not able to hold. The, the body is trained to look for ways out, just like the dam that
Mm-hmm.
bursts. Before it ever bursts, it looks for small, you can see maybe like a stream of water running out of this of the side, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the same
Mm-hmm.
way. And the body begins to look for avenues. If it's repressed anger, it will look for avenues and it will show
Mm-hmm.
out. and especially some of the um, autoimmune diseases that we suffer from, they are as a
Mhm.
result of repressed emotions. We have unmet
Okay.
needs, we are getting angry, or we are
Mhm.
getting anxious.
Mhm.
People have lost lives, and you're thinking, okay, if you lost a parent, where am I getting university fees from?
Mhm.
What am I going to do? Does that mean I'm going to go to school? Does that mean I don't go to school? You've lost your livelihood. You're a youth. You've lost your livelihood. What happens?
Mhm.
What do I do? Mental health is about seeking help to help navigate your thoughts, putting it in
Mhm.
a simpler form. The reason
Mhm.
why we go for counseling is not for a counselor to tell us what to do. A
Mhm.
counselor helps us crystallize our thoughts. A
Mhm.
counselor helps us navigate the path, looking at where do I go from here? What do
Mhm.
I need to do? What do I
Mhm.
have at hand? I keep saying about the boy, who had the two fish and five loaves, is
Mhm.
each one of us have something at hand. Now, what I have at hand, how do I take that and disseminate it so that I am
Mhm.
able to move forward with it? Most of us
Yeah.
are stuck because I don't know where to go and I don't know what to do. We have
Mhm.
seen a lot of people during this epidemic time. They
Mhm.
had jobs and jobs were lost, but they went back. Some of them went to the farms, and
Mhm.
we have wonderful and beautiful stories of people who went to the back to the farm and are farming.
Mhm.
And they have
Yeah.
found a livelihood. There are people who began baking. There are
Mhm.
people who didn't know they had the gift of even doing hair, and they are doing hair
Yeah.
now. There are others
Yeah.
who started doing soaps. You know, I have
Mhm.
many who started doing soaps, and others who
Mhm.
started doing oils with the natural, with flowers that we have, the natural ingredients that we have. So we
Mhm.
have so many people, and some young people who actually started doing their own hair, their own face, and they've come up with their own makeup.
Mhm.
So sometimes when we are pushed, when push comes to shove, when you are pushed to the corner,
Mhm.
you can either break or grow.
Yeah.
Now, the people who break are the ones who internalize everything and you just see darkness. But the people
Yeah.
who grow are the ones who seek help.
Mhm.
When you seek help, it doesn't mean you're weak. Seeking help
Sure.
is strength because you're saying, I've come to the end of myself. I need help. And help is always there. And if you can't get help from one person, the people
Mhm.
who've gone for help to one person, and because
Mhm.
that person let you down, you decided
To give
this
up.
is it, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
But help, like I said, I got wrong help. It was help,
Yeah.
and I was seeking help, but it was
Mhm.
wrong help. And I
Mhm.
decided I need to look for right ways to look for help.
Mhm.
And these days, I keep saying we have the benefit of Mr. Google.
Mhm.
You know, we have the
Yeah.
benefit of Mr. Google. If
Mhm.
on a very serious note, I feel if I come to Nashipai, you
Mhm.
know, I will look like uh, um it doesn't look nice. The stigma.
Mhm.
I went to see a counselor. I can go to
Yeah.
Mr. Google and I can
Mhm.
read about it. There
Mhm.
is no condition today that you can't read about. And if
Wow.
you can't read about it, we have
Mhm.
online help, you know.
Mhm.
We have
Yeah.
online help where you just type the word I need help. I can't
Mhm.
think. Mr. Google
Mhm.
will come up with something. You know,
Mhm.
it will come up
Mhm.
with something. It may not be the solution, but it's an opening where
Mhm.
I am not feeling exposed because again, exposure brings fear, and
Yeah.
fear brings paralysis.
Mhm.
Now, when fear brings paralysis, I get stuck. Now, when I get stuck, I am immobile. I am not
Yeah.
moving.
Mhm.
That means my thoughts are just my own. I'm not interacting with anybody.
Mhm.
Our thoughts become detrimental when they're just revolving around.
Mhm.
I'm asking
Mhm.
myself questions and I'm answering. It's like
Okay.
a wound. A wound festers when it's not been opened. But once we remove the past from the wound, it begins the
Yeah.
healing process.
Mhm.
That's the same thing with our own thoughts. When they become internalized,
Mhm.
when we begin asking ourselves questions and answering,
Mhm.
the depth that we get becomes shorter and shorter. Eventually, we close down.
Yeah.
Eventually, helplessness sinks
Yeah.
in,
Mhm.
despair comes in. And that's
Mhm.
why when despair comes in, I come to the end of myself.
Mhm.
Suicide is an option.
Mhm.
Distancing myself becomes an option. Closing
Mhm.
myself away from people becomes an option
Mhm.
because I am in this cocoon by myself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Liz, I once asked a question to one of the professionals, and I think I'm going to ask you again this question. How do I know that I have a mental health problem? Like, how am
How
I
do
supposed to
you?
know? Yeah.
Okay. First of all, that's a good question
Thank
because
you.
am I aware of who I am?
Mhm.
First and foremost, am I aware of who I am? Because if
Okay.
I'm aware of who I am and
Mhm.
I begin to, for example, if I am a sanguine, I
Okay.
like people, sanguines like being around people, life of the
Mhm.
party.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if I start not wanting to, I'm always in my room, sorry, I don't want conversation, that is a sure sign. When you start withdrawing, when you start sparking, you know, somebody asks you a question, you're like, oh, wow, no, I was only asking, and you spark, right? Um, when I am sparking, when I am withdrawn, when I begin, some of them, showering becomes, I can shower once a week, I can shower once in 3 days, you know, I can, I can shower once in 3 days. Those are some of the signs. I become a recluse. If I, oh my goodness, um, sorry, I think, I don't know what has happened to Daniela, but I guess I will continue talking. Um, so when you become a recluse, when you become withdrawn, you don't shower, you become unkept, your house, some of them is you don't want to eat, you lose your appetite. Some of them you start having aches and pains, body aches and pains, you don't know from where. You can't sleep well, you are unable to sleep. These are some of the signs of and symptoms of mental health. When the things that you used to do are no longer pleasing, when are not no longer pleasing, but they are no longer enjoyable. You used to love being around people. People tire you. You don't want to read. If you're in school, your grades begin to go down. These are some of the signs that you need help, and these are the times that you reach out. And as Daniela said, sometimes we're not able to know. We think we are doing fine, or we think we are well. We think it's okay, tuko sawa, but you are not sour when you start doing all these things. Or for the youth, you start spending more. There are some that start shopping, you become a shopaholic. Every time you're doing anything is online, and these things and these days online shopping has been made so easy. You're always online shopping, you're shopping for things, you're doing things, and when you look back, they actually are things that you really didn't need. These are some of the things that you begin to do because it's your mental task saying, I need help, I need help, I need somebody to listen to me, I need somebody to help me out. And as I said earlier when I was speaking to Danielle, asking for help is not weakness. Asking for help is strength, because when you're not able to cope fast with yourself, then those that are around you, and then with the community at large. If you're not being able to cope with this, then you really have a problem. Or if you are an introvert, you start going out, or there's some who actually become obnoxious. There are some who you are always in agreement with everybody, but all of a sudden you're in disagreement with each and every person that you're meeting. That also is a problem. And you begin to see those are telltale signs that there is something actually going wrong. And Daniela hasn't come back. But the next question would be seeking for help. How do I go for help? How do I reach out for help? What do I begin to do with myself? One, as I said, if you feel the fear of reaching out, the fear of going out there and seeking help, if you have that fear, one, you can reach for Mr. Google. The other one is, I keep saying, the conversations I have with myself. Are you able to have conversations with yourself that are real? Are you able to look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you? I love you. Call out your name and say, I love you. Are you able to do that? Are you in love with yourself? When it says, love yourself as you love your neighbor, that's very true. I can only give what I have. And what is it that I have? Am I confident? Am I okay with who I am? Grief brings about grief brings about a pain sometimes that we are